Everybody's standing up. You can now sit down and we'll get started here. Everybody's standing up.
Tonight's episode, Triangle of Terror.
All right. Well, I got the fans off, but I just noticed we got a cricket or something outside the door. So I don't know, give me some feedback on if that cricket is being annoying or what. But this is the advanced class. On Saturdays, I'm attempting to offer a place for the advanced kids to hang out and talk about big picture stuff. Let's see, let me go read the Instagram post I just made because I think that was a pretty good job of making it clear. So I just do stuff. I don't sit around and figure out how to do it first and then wait until I get it perfect and do it. I do sometimes, I guess I've done that, but nowadays I just do stuff live most of the time. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm trying to hone in what exactly this show is. So here's an example. Here's what I just wrote about it on Instagram. The advanced class on 2A episode 2, 2A skills for the advanced practitioner, 2A the next chapter, level up your 2A. Then I said, sick and tired of 2A folks introducing themselves and reacting to news of the day. I should have said, tired of 2A folks only introducing themselves and reacting to news of the day. We evolved the 2A conversation, long-term goals, big picture strategy, the whole playing field, all of the variables. Join in live, no scripts, no echo chamber, no reruns, the real evolution of 2A. We invite everyone that is good in 2A that we know. So that's all the people. We literally sent out an email with a link to everybody I know who does stuff for 2A. And those are the same people I invite to Every Second Matters. We're going to start doing this every Saturday night on here, which is the biggest platform I've got, stupid YouTube. So this will then get broadcast out to Streamer, gunstreamer.com, and the Tube, guntube.org, which are video hosting platforms that are actually focused on Second Amendment gun stuff. So the idea is that most of the time, I'm frustrated. I've been in Second Amendment since 2015, paying attention to it almost specifically, exclusively. And then, around guns my whole life. I'm old, so been around guns for a long time. And I've started to recognize cycles. Sorry, I'm closing this door. Those crickets are anti-gun. Now it's going to be stuffy in here because of that crickets out there being anti-gun. Could you even hear it? It's driving me insane.
I didn't hear it at all.
Oh, okay. So the computer was pulling it out of there, but it was driving me nuts. Now I can hear all the fan noises. Anyhow, as somebody who's been paying attention to 2A for too many years now and paying attention to guns my entire life, there's cycles, and these cycles are frustrating. And I'm trying to clarify that or even put it into words, my frustration. I haven't been good at it. I don't have the right words or whatever. But in order to do something about that, I'm hosting these shows every Saturday. So they'll either work or they won't. I don't really care. I mean, I'd like them to work, but I'm not delusional. I've tried things like this in the past and they haven't succeeded. We still have the NFA and stuff like that. But that's the overall goal. How do we get rid of the NFA? Well, we can't just keep closing our eyes and hoping so. I tried doing that a few times and it doesn't work. I asked Biden in an email and he didn't get rid of it. So I figure another way to do it would be through a bunch of small steps. And if this is one of those small steps, so be it. Hopefully it's not a step backwards, but and if it's not an effective step, well, so be it. But I'll continue to invite everybody I know who's active in Second Amendment. I'm not trying to call anybody else out or call anybody out, but I'll continue to invite them if they're interested in joining in. What we'll have is honest conversation about 2A and not focused on the news of the day. As I say, this is definitely the opposite of that. It's thinking more big picture stuff that we could do to move the Overton window, things we can do to enhance or facilitate other projects that are out there. One of the reason I'm even in this whole thing, the reason I enjoy doing this is because of the efforts that individuals have done numerous times over the years, which empowered or allowed projects or campaigns to do all kinds of neat stuff throughout the, and it's happening all over in all different kinds of realms. But the stuff that happens for 2A is a lot of fun to be part of. So I think it's productive and useful. So I'll continue to act on it. And in that light, I think that's an introduction to the show. Spent 5 minutes doing that. I'm learning that with some of this live stuff, especially the stuff that matters, you got to kind of do something in the first couple of minutes to allow the alerts to go out and to give time for people to jump in. Just that Clover jump in. G23, I don't know if I introduced you. G23 is in here. He does a live show each Saturday, a long format, live conversation focused on guns and often 2A. Just got done with a 4-hour chat this afternoon. Clover does stuff multiple times a week, is involved in the community in lots of different ways. Thank you guys both for jumping in. I guess I'll shut up for a second and let you all say anything if you want, awkwardly.
Well, thank you again for the invite, and thanks for plugging the channel.
Yeah, good to be here. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but I'm sure we can talk trash about somebody, so let's do it.
Yeah, so I guess I should mention that right off the bat. You're probably talking about the name of the thing, and I'm just playing around. I was really trying to keep some of the jerks away by naming some of these things weird titles and putting in descriptions that are kind of red herrings or what. But yeah, I'm not really here to point fingers. I think that's what I'd name this one. Next week is profiting off of 2A. I'm going to probably come up with something snarky and memeish to put up for the week after. It's probably self-defeatist because it's really trying to make this a good conversation, but whatever. I'm not saying I'm good at it. But as far as topics, I don't bring topics to the show, and we definitely don't go off of news of the day. So I'm hoping that the people that show up or the people that are watching this live and part of the conversation out there, I guess I'm not sharing my screen, but we are watching the comments out there. Thanks to everybody for showing up. Please throw out throw out topics for discussion and whatnot. But G23 had an interesting topic to bring up that he's been asking in his shows recently. I'm not sure if Clover's chimed in on it. I don't think live for sure. You may have said something in text. But I guess, why don't you just ask the question and then I'll let Clover have a chance to go at it and then I'll go at it.
So I've been asking, and I know P&W has kind of thrown it out there also, is does the Second Amendment cover melee weapons? And if it does, should we do something to help fight any horrible gun laws or knife laws and melee laws that are out there to start a second fight so they're not always realizing we're just going back after the firearms,
Yes, and good luck with that. So let me explain what I mean by all of that. Yes, absolutely. The founders and framers shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. It's there for a reason. The commas are in a specific place for a reason. And the word arms is used for a reason. That included battleships, that included cannons, that included a large litany and variety of things, which was used at the time and subsequently in years after. There was privatized battleships and all kinds of other things. So yeah, no doubt. I mean, anything and everything that can be utilized, right? And there's an argument to be made even for because people want to use the whole, warplanes and nukes or whatever, and there's an argument to be made even for that. That look, if the government has that, we should have that. So if you're against nukes, then nobody should have nukes, right? And including the governments, and we all know how that would, of course, play out. The my part about yes, we should be bringing those fights when and where we need to bring those fights. My snarky comment about good luck with that is we have enough problem with the FUD rift as it is. And when we move from, we're talking about different variants of firearms, right? And the quote unquote FUD rift is problematic. being able to mobilize, being able to get people, oh, the bump stock, I don't care about that, or the pistol brace, I don't care about that, or whatever the case may be, right? Now extend that even further, and you got the people that, oh, they'll never come for this, that, or the other. And as far as coming for knives and coming for clubs and coming for things of that nature, that seems even more benign than the firearms, right? So that gap and that distance you're going to have to make up. That's a much harder. I don't want to say it's a harder fight on the front of having to fight for those rights and to keep infringements away from those particular items. Um, the fight and the struggle, I think anyway, is going to be on our own side within our own ranks, unfortunately.
So that's one direction. I'm in. Oh, do you go?
I'm just going to respond real quick to, wouldn't, if we started like going after some of the knife laws, sword laws and stuff that are already there, could we not possibly pull like anti-gunners to our side saying, hey, we're not actually going after firearms, could we maybe persuade some of them to come and help fight to protect knife laws, because it could be beneficial to them also?
Well, you're predicating that on and again, I'm projecting something on you, so this is going to be a conversation. Correct me where I'm wrong. But what I hear you saying is we go to anti-gunners and, since they're against firearms, they must be for other means of protection. And I think the ones that are hardened anti-gunners are in their mind. I don't know that a situational thing, if something was to happen to them and them actually experience a traumatic event, I don't know that it wouldn't change their opinion. And it would have, unfortunately, it'd have to be that drastic. But in their mind, I think they see any type of force on force. They are a flight, right? There's absolutely no fight. Fight is not even in their realm of possibility, whether that be with a firearm, a fist, a club, a knife, whatever it might be. So I think, while I think that, yes, you have a section, the same as we do with firearms, you have a section of people in the middle, 60 to 80, let's say, percent of America, when you're talking about specifically those that are currently in an anti-gun mindset now, I don't know how many of those are capable of being converted when it comes to anything that could be, quote unquote, a defensive weapon.
All right. So now I'm going to jump in with my thing because that's sort of online with what I'm saying. So if you got something G23 to throw back or add on, then hold on a second, put your notes or whatever. So my take on it was different direction than Clover's, but that last part, I think kind of brings it to at least to where I was going to go. So when I've heard G23 ask the question, people talk about it years and years over the years, I guess, and hear different people talk about it. My thing, or my approach to answering the question, was more along the lines of, yes, I think everybody agrees that it's the right to keep and bear arms. Like DJ said out there earlier, arms is like another way of saying armament. And that does not mean fire. I mean, it does not mean firearms. It meant armaments, and that's swords and daggers and bows and arrows and cannons and all the other stuff that we mentioned, right? So yes, the knives are definitely included. I hear what you're saying, Clover, and you're right. I'm not trying to disagree that knives aren't going to be something that it's not like if somebody's anti-gun, you go, well, you're pro switchblade then. I mean, that makes no sense, and you're not going to necessarily win them over. But I think there's opportunity in gun owners, people that are gun owners but not Second Amendment advocates. They're gun owners but aren't political. They own a firearm but they don't consider themselves a gun owner. All those people that are all in the 80% in the middle. If you think there's 10% that are extreme here, 10% that are extreme over there, all the 80% in the middle, they all got their own little stories and they're all going to be on some kind of bell curve. All those people, I think we got a potential, because if you say potentially to a general person, hey, they're coming to get your guns. Yawn, not my gun, but they also want your knife. Oh, wait a minute, what? So I think we've got that. Maybe we can perk some ears on our side with people that aren't necessarily adamant Second Amendment, when we talk about what I think G23 is kind of mentioning there, some of the warm water, the frog in the warm water analogy, with some of the warm water that knife restrictions, knife prohibitions are or tend to seem like. So that's my angle on it, and that's how I think it hooks up to Clover's point there. And then my other point, or like together with that, is I think that we're losing an opportunity there. We don't have enough focus or enough representation on the knife issue because there's so much nuance and it is such an untapped resource. I believe we should have, I think right now we have one national level knife resource for knife rights, and it's called Knife Rights. But I believe we should have 3 or 4 because we have kitchen knife issues, right? We got utility knife type of issues, people that use them for a living. Then we've got knives that are all the other things, just like guns. We've got a lot of variety and nuance there. And I believe we'd be better off if we had some nuance with the knife side. I think there's also something with the age. As a child, you're only allowed to transition into firearms, at the pace that you're legally able to. Where with knives, at least in our society, that isn't an age prohibited thing. So it's possible for a mature youngin to get into self-defense or into martial arts or into manufacturing or into the collecting or into investing. There's all kinds of things, into military history, into the history of technology, into metallurgy. Stop me at some point because I could start a whole new series on how kids can get introduced to firearms in a wholesome and productive way that helps society, right? So anyway, I'm going to stop going in a tangent there and kind of leave it with, I think we could use more representation on knife rights, and I think that knife rights can be the gateway into firearms rights. And I'll shut up and let you guys take that on, or we can talk about
it. Until earlier, I didn't even realize there was a knife rights organization. And so where I've been going with this, and I'm pretty sure other people have gone, is why not us individuals, start trying to, find a way to help out and start fighting some of the laws that are already on the books. And maybe it is what we need is to form more organizations that are outspoken, and actually out and about, and so that people know of them.
Well, I don't know. I'm reading at the same time you're saying it, but if it's what I thought you said, then I think, we should have. I was kind of saying off air, and I didn't want to go too far with it, but I think having more focus, more organizations potentially, but at least more attention given to the rights of knives, then you've got the potential to parallel or work together with organizations where, if they're going to do a fundraiser or something like a firearm related or Second Amendment rights related entity is going to do a fundraiser and it involves a knife, have the knife rights person there. Or the knife rights person is going to be in an area, have it at a gun shop that supports political stuff with guns. Potentially some, what am I trying to say, some like helping each other out, collaboration type of.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what I'm saying is we got to get those, a couple groups out there that are going to be loud, that are going to be out there getting, letting people know that they're there, letting people know that they're actually fighting and showing how they're going to do it and how they can work with, like the GOA, the SAF, the FPC, OFF, Arizona Defense League, all these other different state organizations that help fight for our 2A gun rights. Why not get a few knife rights organizations that will get out there and be spoken loud and to help fight about being able to protect us even more. And that's not going to happen unless we, the people, start demanding it and start putting effort out on to get it, the need there.
Well, there's another element of this too, in that it's going to have to become sexy, and I hate to say that, but that's one thing about um, the whole fetishizing, whatever you want to call it, violence theory, and whatever the case may be. I talked about it before. It's like people will tune into the train wreck coverage on the news, but not the Olympic award ceremony, right? Or what, and so the knife you don't see, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's low hanging fruit with the firearm related violent acts that happen, right? Um, but the other aspect is that when you're talking about blunt weapons, when you're talking about bladed weapons, we know from statistics that that stuff happens, way more collectively than the AR-15, right? Had ever even thought about or considered. So why is that? And the answer again is it's not as sexy. So, I don't know if we find a way to it seems counterproductive to find a way to make that sexy, to put that play into their hands, to then be able to quote unquote stoke the flames of discontent, right? That seems to me counterproductive. That's something that again, the ones going after the stuff, it seems like have to get to a certain point before they telegraph their moves way off, and we're like, it's kind of like the Three Little Pigs scenario or whatever. It's like, they ain't never gonna, advance. They ain't never gonna advance. They're just over there talking smack. They ain't gonna cross that line. Oh, they ain't gonna cross that creek. Oh, they ain't gonna come up that hill. You know, and then finally, when it's imminent, is when things start happening because you're able to see, well, I'll just say it, don't let a good crisis go to waste, right? And so once things become imminent, that's when you're able to really ramp it up, and the tactic, not just on our side of the fights, but on the other side too. The tactic that works because of the sexiness and whatever is the fear mongering aspect of things. And so, but it's got to get to a certain point before that's a tactic that can be deployed, unfortunately.
Interesting. I was just thinking about it as you were saying that and trying to, picture what you're saying. And I was thinking that I'm not just disputing what you're saying, but how much of it is going to be different because the adversary changes? So, in other words, if a tactic is tried and true, it has to depend on or the whatever the conditions to be the same for that tactic to work, right? So if it's a case of a battle or a fight, the adversary has to have predictable reaction or whatever in order for that tactic to be effective or useful or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering how effective, how often we see things like the fear tactic quit working because it doesn't work anymore. They're saying it to different people, and I'm thinking of some of the ads and stuff that you see that you like. I've seen a couple of them where I'm like, who is this pointed at? Like, who is this marketing to? Like, because this isn't appealing in any way, shape, or form. Like, this seems dated and weird and abusive and like angry, and it's supposed to be an advertisement. And so I'm wondering how long some of these organizations, and I'm just throwing this out there, not specifically to knives or any specific organization, but just as a general, big picture stuff, like how often are these tactics used before they figure out, oh, they're no longer effective, and they haven't been for however long now. And then you're going to seem out of touch or just dumb. Right?
As much as you say they're not effective, if you look at the amount of people that, again, whether you call them the 80% in the middle or the 60% that are really in the middle or whatever,
Yeah.
But when you talk about that, I mean, how many people have no clue about what's the NRA and the inner turmoil and the other stuff? They have no
No, you're
clue. I mean,
100%.
they don't even know the Wayne LaPierre suit thing, right? Let alone the state of New York and the investigation and all of the inner workings and the crap that went on at the meeting that we were there that time. And especially, none of that nuance at all. They have no freaking clue. And they fall for it and they funnel the money.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. And it's really frustrating when that's the case. But yeah, that's part of what we're talking about is bringing light to that so that we don't waste our time on dumb stuff or just being ignorant of something obvious, right? So I think we're done with this one other than I'm going to try to jump into Walt's because it looks like we got some other conversations. I want the whole hour on knives. But that was a good topic, G23. But Walt says something like, does it cover melee weapons? Courts agree. Oh, I guess he's saying courts agree. People versus Gerardo, 85, and other Ryzen, right? 85 is a cool year, but not for knife rights. So I tried looking up people versus that, and it just came up with too much stuff. So I don't know if you guys happen to know that one off the top of your head, but I couldn't even find like a good summary other than it happened in California, I think. So if Walt wants to follow through with that, if there's something we're missing there, but otherwise, thanks for contributing there. Then, like I say, I saw some other topics coming up. So, Domo, Arigato. What does that mean? I'm not going to say it if it means something vulgar. But
Arigato is I think is like hello or whatever. How are you doing?
yeah, but that seems like some kind of robot salesman.
Right.
So
It goes back to that song back in the day.
I know.
Oh, good.
But anyway, how about anti-gunners with mace, pepper spray, less but bloody to an anti-gunners mindset? So I'm not sure the connotation you mean here or what, but I'm guessing this was from a bit ago when G23 was kind of saying stuff to Clover, and I think it was this was when this came up. It was a little bit ago. So we're playing with live conversation here. There's some lag, and we've been chatting, and I didn't want to interrupt people as soon as the comment came up or whatever. But does this affect any of what you guys were saying before? As far as mace and pepper spray being included in melee? For me, I think no. In fact, what I was saying is a new organization. What if we had tasers, not the people to get behind necessarily, but just non or less than lethal, I should say, would be another organization to have for people that don't want to have a blade, but do want to have something. And I think that blackjacks, knives, keychains, well, not knives, blackjacks, maces, keychains, have a real potential as people are doing more Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu, whatever that other type of stuff is where they roll around fighting each other. What do you guys think? Does mace and pepper spray factor into what you guys say or affect what you guys' positions on any of that?
Yeah, I don't think it changes me much because that's still, even though that's less than lethal, it's still harm to another individual, and that still requires an element of fight. And I think that most of those are in the flight mindset. They don't have the mindset to grasp the capacity of the even the option of fight. And to that point, I mean, yeah, I mean tasers, especially depending on what type of taser and the wattage or whatever it is, the volts or what. No, it's the amps, isn't it? That's bad. Um, the and all of that stuff. I mean, those are restricted, so those kind of fall into what we're talking about. I know that in many states, batons and stuff are problematic. So just to kind of elaborate on what we're talking about, where it's not just knives, but any defensive uh, item out there.
Yeah, and so like in Oregon, mace, pepper spray, that falls under the same kind of law as pulling your firearm. You can face the same crimes if you use your pepper spray or your mace, as if you would to brandish your firearm and discharge it. So you could face felony charges, based upon improper use.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got distracted by something here in real life, but I think you'll understand whatever I this, this up. This was just sent to me. I know we're not going to focus on breaking news in this chat, but this was just leaked to me by sources, so I think you'll understand why I needed to take a break from the actual conversation there. Boom. What the hell? Who sends me this in the middle of a conversation? See this puppy? Get this off the screen. See a little puppy? Right, we're starting a poll here whether or not this puppy should be cuddled or if it should be belly rubbed. Or there's also putting your face up to its ear and giving it a billion kisses, because that's also a thing that you should do to puppies like this. Anyway, sorry. Very difficult to not be distracted with that picture being sent to me. Dang it. So, somewhere, how bad can the world be when somewhere there's somebody cuddling a little baby Boston Terrier like that? Come on. The thing about going back to pepper spray and stuff, I was just something about what you guys said there is it's not the tool, it's not the thing in your hand, it's the action of defending yourself, it's the action of allowing other people to defend themselves, it's the act of admitting that the world isn't perfect, even if you're willing to pay somebody to force everyone to be perfect, right? That's the problem with the people who are anti with their mindset. I don't think they care about the implement as much as we do. It's the concept that you're willing to be an individual against their way it should be. And, they figure anybody who wants to do what they're not supposed to be told is basically criminal. You're just either criminal with an intent to steal or you're a criminal with the intent to defend yourself. Maybe I'm reading too much into their position, but that's how I feel. So then another one from Domo, Arigato, something Roboto is, how involved are women in 2A? What are you kidding me? Come on, man. How involved are women in 2A?
He's new. Forgive him. He's new.
Okay. Because I'm thinking they're just setting me up here. Showing an anti-gunner female that an AR-15 is fantastic for home defense. How involved are women in 2A? Showing an anti-gunner female that an AR... Oh, I see what you're saying. Like how many women in 2A are showing females that might not be into guns, that ARs are fantastic. So you think they're literally asking specifically about that specific a thing, or just in general, how many women are in 2A that are showing that guns are an option and aren't? Or do you mean specifically the AR? How do you guys want to read that one?
I read it more as women basically asking or answering questions from women, trying to empower them, to their self-defense and open them up to education on their rights and other things. That's sort of how I took it, and that's kind of how I responded out there in the chat. That may not have been clear, but
I mean,
would you go, neither of these examples are good with the whole advocacy, but you guys check out the DC project. There's lots of great women out there doing great things. Are you talking about Good Patriot and Liberty Doll?
Correct. Liberty Doll basically recites the news and does it in an almost snarkily partisan way. I think that could be problematic, and Good Patriot is absolutely like partisan to the max. So, neither of those, again, I don't think and then I'm not knocking what they're doing. And I'm not saying they're not effective with where they're at and what they're doing, but in the context of what Dummy Elgato out there is talking about, I don't think either of those is as good an example, let's say, as anybody in the DC project.
Gotcha. Like butter knife to cut steak. Like it's a knife, but it's not the knife for the job. Yeah.
Right. Correct.
G23, how do you take that one? How do you want to address it?
So where he's saying, how involved are women in 2A? There's a lot of newer channels popping up, and I've been paying a lot of attention. You got like Santee TV. She's a great female in 2A who's also learning firearms and everything, and she's also trying to help bring in more females into it. You've got somebody like Carbon Q, who is starting to put out new channel. There's so many different women channels out there. And it's just, how well do you look for them? Are you looking at the small channels, or are you just looking at your larger channels and hoping that they're going to do a great reach? I think more of your smaller channels are probably putting out way more help and stuff. And as showing anti-gunner females that AR-15 is a fantastic for home defense, most of them are showing that kind of stuff, showing all different kinds of firearms are good for home defense, or any kind of, it doesn't have to just be home defense. So if you're looking for the channels, I would definitely start looking at some of your smaller channels, and you're probably going to find them out there.
Yeah, I agree. And this applies to channels across the board. But the larger channels are larger channels for a reason. And it's typically because they're playing a formula, they're playing a recipe, whatever, right? And because they do that, think about it. Which chef is going to create the most masterpieces? Is it going to be the chef that is following the recipe to the T, to the letter, or is it going to be the chef that's experimenting? Hey, let's throw a teaspoon of this in there or that, or let's substitute this for that or this, right? And typically the more creative, the one that's going to get, the most, create the most masterpieces and great dishes and all that, is going to be that person that's thinking outside of the box. And I think that's where the smaller channels are coming into play. They're typically smaller because they're not following that recipe.
I mean, we got a great channel in here tonight with Gunpowder Beauty. She hasn't been putting a whole lot out, but she does have some good stuff out there, and I would definitely say check her out. There's a lot of females out there, and I mean, I could probably go through and name 15 different channels that I walk myself.
So we covered that. Now it's Juice turn.
Yeah, so just to throw on the end of there, I don't think I know you don't need to be a channel that produces content, because honestly, often channels that create content are doing it for a reason, for a purpose, for profit, for
Correct.
fame and fortune, for drive that's not altruistic. However, individuals that have accounts on the line, right, on the platforms, on the places, right, those people that have accounts and participate in the conversation, into the comments, and like Clover would say, are the mortar between the bricks, or the glue that binds the pieces together. They have awareness of what's happening in lots of different communities, but they're authentic and they're putting down honest point of view, insight, and positions from ladies out there, daughters, wives, sisters, grandmas, granddaughters, and everything that's in between, and all the new versions we've got of everything. So this is the melting pot in 16 different ways. The internet just lets us all amplify it. The ladies that are doing content creation are often good. I mean, we try to focus on ones that are doing some authentic, good stuff, but there's also just fake, right? Plenty of like pretty, marketing garbage. But I don't want to slight at all the chicks, the girls, the ladies that are out there just doing their own thing, because when a new female, a new anybody comes to the realm, comes to the community, to the industry, whatever we want to call ourselves, depending on what aspect you're looking at it, and they come in to see, is this real? Well, if it's just a bunch of fake accounts, or it's just a bunch of yahoos, or it's just a bunch of this or that, that's one thing. But we're not. We're a community based of a whole bunch of people. Like Gunpowder Beauty represents a whole bunch of girls that are doing their own thing and participating. And once somebody sticks around for about 5 minutes, they realize that these are humans. These are real people walking all walks of life, coming together and living the life. So, yeah, for that aspect, our women involved in 2A. Yeah, they always have been. And now it's even, well, I would say, compared to all time, it's been easier for them to participate and for their participation to be included.
Yep.
But I don't know if I'm interrupting something. Clover's going to say that.
No, I agree with what you're saying.
But otherwise, I don't know if this Domo Arigato. I thought it was Mr. Roboto, so that's why I thought when you're saying Monger that's something else. But if I just don't know the lyrics, then that's fine. I just thought you were trying to slip in like if that's a swear in Japan. I didn't want to put a swear in there. But whatever. So if this is just somebody who's literally new, then just to put a broader point on it, because we're the advanced class here, women have been involved in 2A since the beginning, period. But they've also been heavily involved in 2A specifically, not just guns in the community and whatever, but in Second Amendment awareness since like at least 2013, let's say. You have to, you could I'll have a debate any day with anybody on what date you want to say is the first, because I would say it probably goes back to some of the first online participation by ladies in Utah. That were literally the first that I can find that were online creating community and involving other women to get up and not just hang out with their wives, or hang out with other guys' wives at the range, but like actually get into guns as females. But yeah, that's been going on big time since 2015. So they're 7 years strong. At the level where I'm guessing you guys already talked about the DC project, but then often overlooked is the well-armed women. A bunch of ladies that get together and shoot competitively and have something like 4,000 get-togethers each year. 4,000 get-togethers. So think about all the ladies' nights and stuff that happen at ranges. What if the ladies got together and didn't wait for ladies' night? That's sort of like what well-armed women is all about, I think. I'm mansplaining it, so forgive me. And then Girl and a Gun is 400 something ladies get together multiple times a year and train on not just how to be better shooters, but how to instruct and how to be Second Amendment advocates. So when ladies get together, since they're coming in later in the game and we made it easy for them, they get together and go straight to 2A, like straight to making themselves better as advocates and citizens, where, we get together as dudes and just take it all for granted and figure we got it all down. And we never even hardly bother to be advocates. So yeah, women involved in 2A is hardcore.
And they also get, I think, this is just my opinion, I think they get less bogged down in some of the nuances that we get bogged down in.
That's just because they don't pay attention to details. But yeah, I hear you.
I mean, that could be. But, maybe they don't have the knowledge base that we have, or maybe they don't have, whatever. But it just...
this may be sexist, but we're hunters. So we pay attention to detail. We scrutinize things through detail. All they got to do is gather. So they just have to look at the general idea and get...
Yeah. General. Well, they look at it. They look at it and they go, "Oh, that's a cute little handgun," right? We look at it and go, "Hey, that's a so and so 9mm. It was built from 1987 to 1993. It come in 3 different calibers with this many magazine capacities." Blah 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 blah. Right.
So for some reason they don't hang out in our chats, but whatever. Yeah, they're doing awesome. So if you're not familiar and you're down, if you're woke or whatever, you like them chicks and what they can do. If you got a granddaughter or a daughter and you want to encourage her, that chicks are probably going to do better for 2A than all dudes ever. Well, not all dudes, but most dudes ever going to do. Then yeah, start digging in. Yeah, lots of places to dig. DC Project, Girl and a Gun, Well-Armed Women, and then start watching podcasts. You'll never finish. There's tons of content. Let's see. It's just playing around, saying, hey.
So another channel that he should probably check out every Sunday night is Locked and Loaded Latinos. They got the husband and wife, that are out there advocating for 2A and doing a damn great job.
See, I knew it was a robot peddler. I don't know if it's a high class, respectable robot peddler, all right. But if it's some kind of street robots, I don't know. Let's see.
Well, if he came from Yankee, he's got to be fairly high end, right?
Oh, I don't even want to know.
Yankee's kind of a diva. So
yeah, I used to know a Yankee follower when they came around, like somebody who watches Yankee, but the world's different than it used to be. So it used to be when Yankee first started, people would come in and they were always argumentative and mean when they would come from watching Yankee stuff looking for a fight. And I don't do that stuff. So they're always like, "What's going on? Why aren't you fighting this guy?" And now they're not like that anymore. So I can't even tell. So Domo Arigato, Robot Peddler, is saying, I became a GOAer due to Rachel Malone here in Texas. Thank you again. Subscribe to Clover Tack and Ghost. So let's talk about Rachel Malone. So this little girl was minding her business and was like, I don't like the way things are in Texas because y'all aren't really that good as far as guns. So she started going around on her own, as far as I understand this, just being a 2A advocate because she felt like she should, and she wasn't even, in college or something at the time, maybe she was in school, and just started going around doing grassroots where she would go to a place and encourage people to vote for, concealed carry?
Yeah.
Or was it open carry?
It was the move between the two, but yeah.
Okay, and then she did that for a while and then was successful and then got done with college and everybody thought she was great. I think she spoke at a couple of gun rights policy conferences and it was cool because the first year she went, she was super enthusiastic and everybody thought she was amazing, right? Seeing new blood in the community and having enthusiastic, fresh ideas and already putting boots on the ground and having success, right? And then the second year she was like a pro, like you could tell. Anybody who goes out and does something for a year, they come back and they're way different, more effective at it. And then she went out and got some job someplace working for a lawyer, I don't know, some kind of job. And they were like, wait a minute, what, you like guns? You're fired or something like that. And then she's minding her business and GOA with Gun Owners America was like, hey, why don't we pay you to do what you used to do so good? And then they pay her to go around Texas petitioning for constitutional carry. And then that happened right in time for Wayne LaPierre to sit at the table and take credit for it. Nice. So glass ceiling, still in effect. Or okay, now what's your take on Rachel?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, two words come to mind: rock star. That's pretty much all you got to say about Rachel. Rachel's amazing. Works hard, is dedicated to the cause, is super bright, is very, very quick. Understands, and this is something that's important. The vast majority of people out there, they don't understand, and this is one thing that I think I did at least enlighten people on with my coverage here in Texas this year. But how the gummy bears made or the sausage made, how government works is dirty and nasty and convoluted and it's boring and it drags drug on and on and on. And more importantly, I think she understands that, and it doesn't let it frustrate her to the extent that she can't get things done. And she can actually work with different politicians to utilize some of that to our advantage here in Texas, thankfully. Because if you know how the process works, then if you know all the potential moves on the chessboard, right? If you know all potential moves in any given situation, then you're just that much more formidable of an opponent.
And if you've been watching those other people play, so yeah, there's these moves, but these are the moves these people play. So yeah, you're even more useful.
Yes, exactly.
G23 doesn't even care about Rachel Malone, I don't think, because I have nothing to say. But he also lives in.
I would love to steal her from Texas and bring her to Oregon. Let her start fighting for us like she did for damn Texas. I'm kind of jealous of Texas over that.
All right, advanced 2A. Oregon, crammed right between stupid Washington and sucky California. So you got that going for you. And then you got who's to your east? Nobody. Utah, they don't help you ever. And then, or Nevada, either way, they don't help you. So you're over there by yourselves. But then y'all decided, let's not make it state level government. Let's basically give counties all the control, which is kind of cool. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I think that's why you're in the position you're in. Because it's really difficult to make Oregon do anything, right? Oregon's like, oh, you can tell us to do anything at a county level. Go ask every single county. And best you can hope for is to push around Portland, right? And then every once in a while you get a national or a state level thing that's an infringement, I guess. But I really think that's one of the reasons Oregon is so tough. I don't live there, and I'm just going off little pieces here and there.
So I saw Gunpowder Beauty threw out another great channel, and yeah, that guy's wife's media is another one that is out there. She's on multiple different platforms, putting out content.
Yeah, not so much, but she has been for the last 2 years or how long it's been now. She's been an essential employee, so the cough has been pretty detrimental to her stuff.
So Trent had asked, "Do you guys know if it's legal to put a folding brace on a shockwave? Either way, either way, any folding adapter." So we're talking a shockwave is the firearm that's 12 gauge and is not a short barrel shotgun, and it is not a shotgun. It's a 12 gauge firearm. If I'm correct.
That's correct. That's correct. It is a.
So then putting a folding brace on it is not putting a brace on a pistol, and it's not putting a brace on a short barrel shotgun. Putting a brace on a short barrel shotgun would turn it. No, wait. No, you could put a brace on a short barrel shotgun. That's the whole point. You could put a stock on a short barrel shotgun. If it was an AOW, you could not put a stock on it. You could put a brace on it, I think. And if it's a shockwave, a firearm, I think you can put a brace on it. But I'm only saying I think because I've never looked into it at all, and I've seen them for sale. And there's no NFA, so I'm guessing that's where they get that from. You guys have you guys ever seen anything more specific on that?
No, I think you're right.
But honestly,
I've seen braces for sale for them, but I have never looked into because I'm just not a fan of the shockwave.
Okay, so with that, we're gonna quit answering the question because I mean, really, I don't care about that specific question. I'm only bringing it up so that we could be courteous because I think Trent, we know who that is. But I'm not really intending to put a show on in the middle of the night to talk about specifics like that. So I put it up as an example. Now we can go. This is one of the things that's driving me nuts, and we're seeing it timely with stupid ammo ban, but we see it all the damn time throughout our lives, and that's compliance. And there's infringement, and there's compliance with infringement, and sometimes it's difficult to see that it's happening, and other times it's happening, and we just don't pay attention or something. And that's one of these things where it's like we figure, okay, once they put salt in our tail, we're just stuck there. That's it. We're done. Like they got us, when that's not the case. So with this particular situation, my real answer, especially at midnight on a Saturday, is going to go whatever the specifics of that one are, NFA. And why aren't we fighting that NFA, right? So I don't want to get into it. 8 minutes left in the show, but really think that this is, of all the time I've been alive, the best potential we ever have to get enough people together to have a strategic and useful attempt to push for the removal of the NFA. Even if it isn't successful, how difficult is it going to be for people in the future to say that no one even wants full auto when there's a deliberate, effective, almost successful attempt, or maybe even successful attempt to remove the NFA? What if we remove suppressors and short guns off the NFA and they only could keep destructive devices and machine guns on there? Then we'd only have to get rid of machine guns, and then pretty soon we'd have more than shock stuff to play around with.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's my real answer to that.
Well, they talk out both sides of their mouth all the time, right? Because on one hand, they'll say that, but the NFA has been the law; it's been around for 100 years. Why should we change that? But then now but they don't have a problem with the ban on gay marriage or the ban on smoking pot. You know what I'm saying? Has been around for 100 years, and we should change that, right? So it all depends on their agenda and what's going on, right? And I'm for all of that. I mean, get rid of the NFA, let people get gay married, and let people smoke weed. I don't care. But and then it's the same type of hypocrisy that we see when they say, "Oh, but the Second Amendment is about muskets and single shot rifles," and then they turn around but the First Amendment is about the internet and is about cell phones and technology. And it's like, you can't have it both ways, right? And so I don't know, I don't know if showing people their hypocrisy is a way to forward the movement of getting rid of, antiquated um, legislation or what. I don't know if there's any parallels we can use anywhere. Walt probably would be the one that could draw those parallels. He's pretty quick on that stuff. But if there's any parallels between social issues and other things that have been antiquated laws for years that got changed, to give us an idea maybe of a pathway to utilize that route with the NFA. That's where I was going with that.
And I think that even if it isn't effective in the person who you're having the actual conversation with, or the person who's got control of the button today, illustrating their inconsistency or whatever, illustrating their issues or the invalidity of their position, even if it doesn't affect them immediately, it can add to the accumulation of data sets that the future is going to use. And if we never challenge it, it's status quo. It's as is because no one's ever challenged it. The more we challenge it, the more they have to justify it. And because we are correct, there's very little that justifies any kind of artificial infringements. That's all done through the grift of, I'm using that word, trying to use it, but that's all a scam that the politicians have used based on the fact that nobody could ever get real data. Now that real data is available, it's real difficult for people to hide behind awareness or unawareness or whatever. It's just a matter of us bringing stuff to light enough so that those next people that are going to be pulling the buttons or pulling triggers, pushing buttons, whatever, that they're aware too. So I know it's long game, but that's what we're talking about.
And also something people have to understand this. So people get upset when there are laws that go into effect that they don't like, that get passed or whatever. And they go, well, I don't understand. Why don't the courts overturn these and blah, blah, blah. Understand something, that somebody has to bring a suit to court before that's even a potential thing. So when you look out and you see rights being taken away or injustices or whatever, and you go, hey, why aren't the courts doing something about this? Take a step back and instead look at, why aren't people bringing a suit against this? And that will open your eyes sometimes to a lot of the people and potentially organizations that talk a good game but really aren't interested in trying to do anything.
I mean, wouldn't it be a completely different political landscape if most of the news was, the gun advocates are challenging this infringement again? The gun advocates who are safe and who've brought down accidents basically to nothing, and have cleaner and safer ranges than ever before, who basically are completely responsible for all the game management and the condition of the environment where all the game animals live. In other words, the national parks and the management of the wildlife there. And start talking like, the advantages of all of us. I mean, it would be way different than come into the scene as a Bloomberg played plant, 20th richest guy on the planet pays somebody from a multinational organization's marketing department to go after guns as if they're a health issue, and, get people voted into smaller level of government to start creating anti-gun stuff at all the smallest levels. I mean, it's just a whole different game that they're having to play based on what we got today. Imagine if we move that field even further, they'd be out of the game. They'd literally have to go somewhere else to make their money.
Well, and 81%, right? I mean, how that became in the Texas stuff, right? That became a caricature. That became a cartoon. That became a joking point. I mean, it was so quick to pick up on exactly what you're talking about. You've got, and not to say there wasn't anti-gunner people that testified that day and other stuff, that were there for themselves, and whether I agreed with them, which I don't, or not, were at least genuine. But the vast majority was the whole 81% thing and regurgitating the same crap. And then how many people actually had, on our side, on the pro side, with genuine people with genuine arguments and valid points and really thinking outside the box on a lot of stuff. And I think the more that we can, and we don't do it, right? If they get up there and they regurgitate the whatever Bloomberg's talking points and whatever because that's all they know, and they bring it, they make themselves a cartoon in the caricature by doing that. So we're not doing that, but we should point to that cartoon immediately and go, look at the contrast. It's all about contrast, and that's how you set us apart from them. Is by going, look, it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It's buffoonery at its worst or best, depending on how you look at it.
I was going to say you could, if you watched it and fast forward, or if you just took a couple of pieces and don't even have to edit, you just have to cut a clip out of that 10 and a half hours or whatever it was, and just find a place where there's a good juxtaposition of, like you're saying, I was told to say this was the way it is, and I'm offended because I was told this, and then some actual argument or some condition or issue that's brought that they're not paying attention to by their dumb feel good law or whatever, and then the next position is fake. I've been told to be offended by this, and here's what I'm saying again. Here's what we were told to say, and it makes it look like well, it's just stark. It's very different when they're put next to each other.
Yeah.
All right, so again, we run this chat for about an hour each Saturday. I invite everybody who I invite to the Every Second Matters chats, which is pretty much everybody I know who is kind of online, either hosting live conversations or doing Second Amendment advocacy at like a monthly or more pace, that have been doing things for years, and that are interested in and capable of doing a live conversation, and on top of all that, a live conversation with me, because there's plenty of people that fit into that category that have nothing to do with me. So I'll continue to host the room. I've done this in the past on Saturdays. I've done this in the past on Tuesdays during the week. There's no perfect time to have it. However, I think the best thing I can offer is consistency. A place that's here every week, and if people have an interest in finding it, they'll find it. If it takes off, perfect. Then we've got an opportunity to get people to work together in creative ways. But I'll continue to have hour every Saturday that's live. That'll be a conversation focused on the next level of 2A, where no one has to introduce themselves and no one has to worry about just following the news of the day. Instead, we can look at big picture. We can look at the long game and focus on 2A instead of having to wait until we meet once a year. And unfortunately, because Gun Rights Policy Conference, the only yearly event where we get to meet and focus on 2A, since that's gone virtual, we literally for the last 2 years have had no opportunity. No other national level organization even considers having a get together, First Amendment exercising right to assemble, right? An opportunity to assemble, I guess I should say. Nobody even considers doing that. The NRA does do that when they have their convention. The NSSF offers that with their SHOT Show, and USCCA and some others do have the potential. However, because most people are attempting to pay off the trip or deal with all the other things that's going on at a trade show or an industry event, Second Amendment stuff gets kicked to the freaking curb. Ask me how I know. It gets stuck to second fiddle or third rate or whatever you want to call it. It happens maybe after everything else gets done. So it gets the tired, half-assed attention that it doesn't deserve, but it's all that it ever ends up at in an industry event. So since we can't have a get-together, we can have virtuals, and as people are getting more and more able and interested in doing get-togethers electronically like this, like I say, I'm going to continue to attempt to invite people, and we'll have conversations not scripted or structured, but instead focused on, like I say, big picture, long-term 2A. And then if we start getting this thing rocking and rolling, we'll go off air and have all kinds of private, effective collaborations and strategy sessions. You can't even imagine. Think about all the people you've listened to online or watched in a show or something about some event they did, and imagine what they're like when they're letting their hair down and talking off air. Some of them are boring, but most of them, like, you just get started when we go off air. and they've got all kinds of cool ideas and stuff. And the problem is that they're all as scared, just like the big useless YouTubers are scared to talk about 2A, because if you talk about 2A, it's boring and nobody wants to do that and they won't make money or whatever their other stupid excuses are. The Second Amendment advocates are scared of whole other piles of things, and it's frustrating. So once you get off air, the conversations do get a little different. And because I value that and I know how effective that is, I'll continue to do these shows. So they all have links. They're all welcome to join. Some amount of people may be watching this and not jumping in because you don't want to go live in the middle of the night on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever it is. But wait a minute, is this the middle of the night? No, we're not smashing into Voss, are we?
No, he's like 2 hours ago.
Okay, so after this, I'll just go live for an hour. After this, though, there is a guy that goes live overnights. And like I said, we'll have the opportunity with this show to have some overnight off-air sessions, which, like I say, are just sometimes amazing. So with all that being said, appreciate the people that joined us live. I want to thank Clover and G23 for jumping in, being part of the panel tonight. Makes it actually way better when there's more than one POV. Anything to plug or chat about on the way out?
Nope, just will agree that the after chat is where it happens. So turn on the cameras, turn on the microphones, get out there, get your voice heard, and be a part of that after chat.
With that, we'll say thanks for watching and listening. And we got to come up. We need a commercial for Clover. And we got a G23 commercial. Let me throw that on real quick. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.